Chapter 3. So far, you have learned the core items of a sentence: the subject, which is the nominative case, the verb, and the direct object, which is the accusative case. This chapter introduces two new cases, which are most often used as modifiers of these core items. Section 16. Genitive case. Remember that the genitive singular is the second form listed in the dictionary entry for nouns and helps identify the declension of the noun. So, for a noun of the first declension, like puella, the genitive singular will look like puellae, with an ending of ae. The genitive plural looks like puellarum, ending with arum. And in the second declension, a word like locus looks like loci in the genitive singular, ending with a long I. And in the genitive plural, it's locorum. The genitive case is usually best translated as of blank, and can indicate several different relationships between a noun and another word. Two of the most common uses of the genitive are to show possession and to show a part of a whole. First, possession. The genitive can be used to show that something belongs to someone. For example, the Latin phrase liber puellae means the book of the girl, or the girl's book. The girl owns the book, it belongs to her. That's why we use the genitive. To give another example, we might say animus viri, meaning the spirit of the man, or the man's spirit. We can see how this means that the spirit belongs to the man. Second, as part of a whole. The genitive expresses the whole of which a part is mentioned. For example, the phrase turba virorum means a crowd of men. The whole is all men, viri, but when we take a specific group of men, in this case, a crowd of men, we make of men genitive. To give another example, nemo feminarum literally means no one of the women. Feminarum is the genitive because it is a portion of nobody. It specifies the specific reference, namely, none of the women, as opposed to, say, none of the animals or none of the men. Section 17. The dative case. The dative singular forms have different endings in the first and second declensions, but the dative plural forms are the same in both declensions. Let's take an example from the first declension noun puella and the second declension noun locus. Puella's dative singular is puellae, whereas locus's dative singular is loci. The dative singulars here have different endings. Compare that with the dative plural of puella, which is puellis, and the dative plural of locus, which is locis. Their ending is the same, long is. The dative case is usually best translated to blank or for blank, and, like the genitive, has a number of different uses. We will review two of the most common uses. First, as the indirect object. The indirect object is the person to whom something is given, said, or done. For example, the Latin sentence puellae donum dat means he gives a gift to the girl, which is the same as he gives the girl a gift. In this sentence, puellae is the dative singular for girl. It signifies that the direct object, which is the gift, is given to her. Another example is viro fabulas narramos, meaning we tell stories to the man, or we tell the man stories. Again, viro is in the dative singular because it answers the question, who are the stories being told to? It is the man, so he's the indirect object, and thus is in the dative case. The second most common use of the dative is for reference. The dative is used for the person to whom a statement refers or is of interest. This one is a little bit more confusing, but it can be easily summed up in saying that when the action is done for the sake of someone or something, it is the dative of reference. For example, domino laborat means he is working for the master. Since the work is done for the sake of the master, it is the dative of reference. Likewise, the Latin sentence pueris donum habet means he has a gift for the boys. In this sentence, pueris is dative because the gift is for the sake of the boys. Thus, we have the dative of reference. Section 18. Expectations. With the addition of the genitive and dative cases, reading Latin becomes more complicated, and it becomes even more important to pay attention to the context of the sentence. The first declension ending AE can signal either a nominative plural or a genitive or dative singular, and the second declension ending long I can signal either the nominative plural or the genitive singular. However, the number of the verb, singular or plural, will help you know whether or not to expect a nominative plural. Similarly, in the first two chapters, transitive verbs led you to expect an accusative direct object. Now, verbs with the meanings show, tell, and give should lead you to expect not only an accusative direct object, but also a dative indirect object. For the verb do, which means I give, we will have a sentence like I give a gift to him, or I give him a gift. We expect that there will be an indirect object, since you must give something to someone. The verb naro means to tell or to narrate. A sentence using naro might be something like we tell a story to her, or we tell her a story. Again, when you tell a story, usually you tell a story to someone. So we expect the dative, which functions as the person receiving that story, the person listening to that story. The same is the case with the verb monstro. We might use it in a sentence like this. They show us a book, or they show a book to us. Here, us is in the dative because the sentence uses the verb to show. We expect, when someone shows something, that they show it to someone. Thus, we should expect the dative here. Whether or not an indirect object appears, and expecting that it might appear will make you a better reader. Section 19. Sentence pattern, special intransitive. So far, you have seen two sentence patterns. One is the intransitive. An example of an intransitive sentence might be agricola laborat, meaning the farmer works. That simply involves a subject and a verb. The second sentence pattern is the intransitive. An example is femina rosam habet, meaning the woman has a rose. The textbook makes this slightly confusing, since it says that the order of the sentence is subject, verb, and then direct object. And for the English, that's true. But the Latin sentence femina rosam habet is actually in the order of subject, object, verb, as per usual in Latin. A third, less common sentence pattern uses certain intransitive verbs which take an object in the dative rather than the accusative case. In this pattern, the dative is a core item in the sentence, rather than a modifier. This means that the sentence will have a subject, verb, and dative noun acting like a direct object. The special intransitive pattern depends on the use of specific verbs. For example, for the verb pareo, the special intransitive will look like domino parent. This means they obey the master. In this sentence, domino, meaning the master, is sort of the direct object. He, in a sense, receives the obedience, and so domino is dative. To give another example, we could use the verb placeo and say rosae feminis placent, meaning that the roses please the women. In such a case, the women is sort of a direct object, since they are the people to whom the roses are pleasing. Still, it is not quite a direct object, so we use the dative. Notice that when these sentences are translated into English, the dative object often sounds just like a direct object, as in the first and third translations above. The dictionary listing for verbs which take their object in the dative will indicate this. So, for example, in a dictionary, we would see nokeo, nokere, nokui, with a plus dat for dative next to it. That means that this verb takes on a dative when it would usually have a direct object. Nokeo, nokere means to harm, or to be harmful to. And that's all of chapter 3. See you in the next one.